When I was a child, I had my cardboard box and pretended I was in a Mercury space capsule and wondered, gee, what happens when you have to go to the bathroom, and what do you do with it? You know, what if you want to eat? Where are you going to get your food and water and everything?
These childhood questions prompted an adult look at ecology. Terry Koch has studied energy and water problems for 25 years, and he uses his own house as a laboratory. He calls it the house that stands alone because it uses nature to supply energy, water, and a septic system. His wife Nora calls him the hippie version of Bill Nye the Science Guy. Terry is one of many people building environmental homes. It's an old concept revived. The word house comes from the Greek word oikos, meaning ecology. Even the earliest settlements designed houses that adapted to landscape and climate. Native Americans used the sun as a guide to build this city in the 12th century AD. It maintains a balanced temperature year-round. Like ancient builders, Norma Beversdorf's husband Tom considered the placement of the sun when designing their house, with most of the windows on the south side of the house.
We have more heat in the winter this way, and we're not getting the cold air from the north in the front.
And the roof is constructed with a special overhang that corresponds with the placement of the sun to enable sunlight in the winter and shade in the summer.
That is passive solar, and it may not look like what it does, but actually in the summertime, no sun ever comes in the house. And in the winter, it absolutely bathes the room. And we've had children playing with just minimal of clothing inside and snow on the outside.
The passive solar heat is also directed under the house and helps to warm the flagstone tile floor. The sun is also used for lighting.
People come in and say, you forgot to turn off the lights here. And the lights are off. We have the sun coming through the skylights. There are fluorescent lights in there too, so at night you have the same effect as a skylight. So it's both a light and a skylight.
They also used recycled items in the house.
These are ordinary plumbing pipes. That's all. And Tom wanted them unfinished. Just natural, what they are. This is instead of having rails. It's safe for any age, little child or a very tall person, and you can grab them quickly or not at all. And it's just a marvelous, marvelous. I think there should be more of them. And up there are the louvers that give air circulation as well as privacy. When the girls were having dates, they could peek in and the dates wouldn't see them. And it was nice. This air circulation, and I agree with the concept that what is good, so that what is good for air circulation also can be an aesthetic thing. They're not separate.
They designed their house in the 50s and finished building it in 1961. But she says the house didn't start with simple plans.
The first plan was very idealistic with a tree in the middle of the house. But, I mean, realism set in, and we sort of put it back a little and had the tree back by itself and so forth. One of the first parties that we had at the house when it was first built, we had a group of students from IU, and one of them is totally blind. And the first comment that he made, he just said, "Oh, it's so wonderful, the indoor-outdoor feeling of this room. We don't have any drapes, any curtains. The drapes are changed by the season. I mean, we have the 4 seasons. When it is autumn, you should see the beautiful orange that bathes into this room. I mean, it just totally changes the character. We have 4 seasons of change right in this room with just the outside seems to come in, but without the temperature changes." If you want a confession, before we built this house, one of our favorite occupations was to look at other places. I have no desire to look at other places now. I mean, I've been there, I've done that. I'm in the woods and I'm happy.
I'm directly over the 17-foot ceiling in the living room, in the room that has the fireplace, right above the ceiling fan. Yeah, it throws a lot of people off. You know, they don't know. You know, you get turned around and they think, well, where's the upstairs? Well, you are. Oh, yeah. Where's the basement? No, we don't have a basement. Well, what was we downstairs? That's the downstairs. No, it's not a basement.
Dan Henline was the talk of the neighborhood when he started construction.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people thought it was great. A lot of the neighbors. I hadn't lived out here only about 6 years when I started building it, and there was one rumor going around that I was building a bowling alley. There's another one going on that this was going to be a hangar, and I was going to level that hill and have a landing strip on top of this hill. I don't even fly, you know.
But he was really just building a new house for his family, underground. Earth-covered houses have been used throughout time because the earth is a natural moderator of temperature. So an earth-covered house will have a stable temperature year-round. In Dan's house, it's always about 57 degrees, which means he pays less to get the temperature where he wants it.
So in the winter, if you want to stay comfortable at 72, you're only basically buying 20 degrees temperature of warmth. Where if you live in a conventional house and it's let go, not to heat it, in a matter of hours it will reach the same temperature as the outside temperature, and then you got to buy all that heat. Well, we only have to buy 20 degrees anytime. And we've also done a trick with a dryer. The dryer goes through a grid in the floor. There's about 400 feet of tile. And you store the heat in the winter in the floor. But always at the end of the line, it comes out about 68 degrees. We're leaving the dryer at, what, 90-some degrees. So when it's coming out at the other end at 68 degrees, that feels cool. So you're actually cooling your house with your dryer vent. At the same time, in the winter when it's 30 degrees outside and that heat's coming out there 68 degrees, that feels warm. So you're heating your house with the dryer all at the same time, just because the heat transfer in the floor. And the way we got that insulated so we can control that by, which way we vent the dryer. We can vent it into the house, into the ductwork, or out of the house.
Dan saved on construction costs because he used recycled materials.
The beams, the main structure of red oak beams cut in 1884 for a barn. Now they're a house. We got the recycled sliding glass door panels to make the greenhouse. The redwood that it's made out of is new, but the glass was once used for doors, and now it's windows. The cellulose insulation that was once newspaper, now it's been ground, processed, dyed one color, and sprayed on so that the newspaper got a second life. Almost all the stone on the house was used in one house that was here before this one, or came out of the ground when we dug the hole for this one.
And Dan continued to recycle after he built the house.
It's your basic wood burner. I did make it deep. It's got almost a 4-foot deep wood box on it. Reason being there, when I was building the place, a lot of my friends were burning wood, but nobody likes to split those big, gnarly, knotted up pieces. Everybody said, you just trash them, toss them in the ditch or whatever. I put them in the fireplace. I got a big enough box. So my first 2 years of heating in here, I burned everybody else's cast-offs.
And many of the initial investments pay for themselves with cheaper bills.
Any installation is going to cost, and the labor to get it installed is going to cost. But it's all going to pay for itself in the long run. Anytime you insulate something, insulating it to keep it warm or insulating it to keep it cool, you're going to save the money that it costs to heat it or cool it. It just might take a year or two to actually see the savings.
Plus, an added bonus. Easy roof maintenance.
Well, since it drains well, it doesn't grow as fast as the grass in lower yards, so you got to mow it a little less often. But you still got to mow it 2 or 3 times a year.
Despite all the environmental perks to this house, there's a practical reason why he built it.
My first motivation was my wife. She wanted a house built that wouldn't get blown away by a tornado, something as safe as possible to raise a family in. And my idea was something that would be cheap enough to heat that I could afford to raise a family in. And this is what we more or less compromised on. I got to play in the dirt, and she got something that wouldn't get blown away.
But Dan's quick to tell you there are many difficult things about building a house like this.
It's really not a good idea to build a house on trial and error, and in a way that's kind of what all these underground houses and anything unconventional is. You got to try it, and there's going to be mistakes made. And insurance companies don't like to hear that. You got contractors building one way, been building this way, they don't want to change. They can make money their way, and so to try to convince somebody to build something totally different and may or may not sell is a hard sell. So it's always been up to guys like myself who take it on themselves to do it. You're not going to get contractors to do it. It's not going to build houses like this on speculation.
John Bauer built his first non-toxic house in 1982 after his wife Lynn developed severe allergies to conventional building materials.
We had a farmhouse that was built about 1850, and in order to modernize it, bring it into the 20th century, we added all the new building materials, carpeting and wall paneling and new cabinets and things like that. And the more we did, the sicker she got, until by the time the house was done, her system was just destroyed. It took us a while to relate it to the house, and at that point, she had to have a healthy house in order to survive.
He's built 5 houses since and written a few books on how to do it.
We've chosen materials for the whole house that are as inert as possible. We use siding that's metal with a baked enamel finish. The roofing is also metal roofing with a baked enamel finish. And something you can't see is inside this wall is metal framing. This house is framed out of steel, so it'll never need to be treated for termites.
John had to find materials for the house that wouldn't outgas, that is, release gas as it ages.
All the wood in the house is tulip poplar. It's a low-tox wood because it doesn't outgas anything. We've also used wall paints that are very inert, so they won't outgas anything. The windows are all aluminum framed, and they're super insulated. There's 3 panes of glass here, and they have thermal breaks in the frame so they won't sweat. Sweating equals water equals mildew and mold growth, so we've avoided that. Kitchen cabinets are one of the big problems in houses because they're almost always made with formaldehyde-laden materials. While it may look like solid wood, they're going to be plywood or particle board with a wood veneer on them. These are all solid wood. The drawers, solid wood sides and fronts, and we've got a metal in the bottom, which won't get moldy, or it's easy to clean, and there's no formaldehyde in it. Most countertops are a plastic laminate that's laminated to particle board, which outgasses downward. We've used all stainless steel. We've used leaded glass in several places in the house. Lead is toxic. It's when lead paint deteriorates and falls off the wall and you get lead dust on the floor that it's a problem. Here, the lead is solid. If you chew on it, it might be a problem, but it's going to be really difficult to chew on. So, biggest problem in bathrooms is moisture. So it's imperative to have plenty of ventilation in the bathroom. We've got a special exhaust fan with a delayed off switch. So when it's in the delayed off position, it'll turn itself off after 20 minutes. That way you're more likely to use it. In the shower, we've got glass doors with polished glass edges, so there's no aluminum on the frame that'll get moldy. The lower track is free draining. These panels are custom made out of porcelainized steel. And there's a special caulking that was used that has minimal outgassing, and it's also got a mild fungicide in it, which is good for in a bathroom so you don't get mold growth in here. Here we've got a toilet that has an insulated tank on the back so it won't sweat. Sweating tank, moisture, mold growth, so that minimizes that. We've got a sink top that's made out of vitreous china, so there's no seams, no place for mold to grow, and it's very inert. Like the kitchen, we've got all solid wood cabinets. So there's no particle board or plywood with formaldehyde in it. And then we've got a laundry closet where the washer and dryer will go, so all the moisture is in one room and the one exhaust fan will handle that. We've got a central vacuum in the house. It's better than a portable vacuum because it has an outdoor exhaust, so any dirt that gets past the filter goes outdoors. And if you had an indoor exhaust with a regular vacuum, it will stir up the dust you haven't picked up yet. For the windows, again, we've used the aluminum frame windows, which don't outgas much, And we've used metal mini blinds rather than fabric curtains because fabric curtains can deteriorate in sunlight and contribute to house dust. So we've avoided that problem as well.
John says once the house is done, it's very important what you put into it.
You may have a very inert, healthy structure, but if you bring in toxic cleaning products and furnishings and things like that, you can have just as unhealthy a house as you had before. The health aspects, some of them cost more. Ceramic tile obviously costs more than carpet. But if you look at the life cycle of it, it'll last forever. So over the life of the product, ceramic tile is cheaper than carpet. The bottom line is that some healthy houses have been built for about the same as an unhealthy house. And they range all the way up to about 25% more in cost. And if it means you're not going to the doctor as often, you're saving some money there.
I'm interested in people having a sense of being in touch with the earth. It's very healing, and it's important to hear the sounds and be on the earth. We're way too mental these days. And interior, and as you know, some of the places that we're constructing are not all that healthy with some of the materials we're using these days.
Cherry Merritt Dario wanted to live in a place that's healthy for the body and mind. So she moved from the suburbs to a 100-acre piece of land and moved a log cabin from the 1830s with her.
We recycled a house. We took it down log by log, and we brought it over in a flatbed semi, but we managed to get 3 loads of logs out here. And then we had dug a basement, and then we began to reassemble it. It's like a Lincoln log house. And my 3 sons, who did the major part of the work, were late teenagers, early 20s. Good way to keep the boys out of trouble. And it was great fun, and when we got the logs out here, I remember, and we got them up, and he said, you know, we don't know what we're doing. This is too big a job for us. I said, well, it's too late now. We have to figure it out.
At first, the house was not connected to the utility grid. 2 years without electricity.
And it was great fun. 18 lamps lined up here, kerosene lamps, cleaning every week the wicks so that we didn't get too much smoke in the house, and filling them up, and it was great. And then finally we decided that it was hard to have one foot in the 19th century and the other in the 21st.
Although electricity made some things easier for them, there are still some inconvenient things about living in this house.
You know, it's a convenience-free kitchen. There are no conveniences. You have to stretch, reach, squat, and do everything to get your meals. But I think that's good. It's something you feel. You know, when you go into these cardboardy apartments, you can feel that that's not a good place to be sometimes. You can't get the windows open. Not that our air is even that perfect anymore, but still, we have to try. We just have to figure out what of all those options are the healthiest for us. But also recycling. I mean, the idea of it's important not to use so much stuff. I've always felt like I lived this way at one time. It's like reassuring. It's a reassuring kind of way to be, even though it's dark and damp and buggy and the snakes get in. It's very much part of the earth, and I feel that. I mean, my own ancestors have been on this continent for quite a while, and numbers of generations, and I have probably lived like this before. I don't know, but...
Cherry decided she wanted to share her vision of living with the earth, but didn't know who would want to buy such remote land.
So I just thought, well, I gave up, and then somebody called me up, and he said, I'm looking for some land. Do you have any land to sell? I said, sure, if you want to drop a house by helicopter and send your groceries over in a cable car. He said, that's what we want to do, kind of.
But one thing she said was that you won't be able to build a road to it. And so, you know, she couldn't see how I could build a conventional house. Well, I had no intentions of building a conventional house, so it was fine. And the fact that there is no road to it was perfect for what we had in mind. So one of the most inspiring books I've ever read is a book about a gentleman named Harlan Hubbard. He built his own cabin much like I did and lived a very simple lifestyle. And Wendell Berry wrote a book about him. It says, they were a quiet people too, for it was a quiet place. Its quietness was announced and enforced by its inaccessibility. No road or driveway went to it. It could be reached only by footpaths. To get there, you had to walk. A certain courtesy toward the place was thus imposed upon you before you reached the house. A stranger might be welcome, you felt, but on certain conditions. And I like that.
Mark Fish bought the land from Cherry because he wanted to live outside the utility grid. He wanted to build his own house and supply all the utilities.
I'm often telling people I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know anything about carpentry really, but I knew I had to do it. I never built so much as a birdhouse in my life, you know. I did go overboard with the size of the structure, I think, you know. I'm learning that as I go along. The smaller the better, I find, because it's easier to maintain.
Mark is interested in water ecology, so he dug this pond by hand to collect runoff water and then reuses the water for household tasks.
You know, I collect rainwater off the roof. So far I haven't run out of water, even in the dog days of summer. I have enough water.
And he has a composting toilet that we can't show you because, like many people, he didn't want a camera crew in his bathroom.
The method I use is called batch composting. We collect our wastes in permeable barrels. And when the barrel gets full, I seal it and I put it away for about 6 months. And it'll aerate in that and compost and kill the pathogens. That material is very benign.
He then uses this material to fertilize his garden, which supplies 10% of his food supply.
We've had quite a few visitors. By counting the people who signed, we've had 280 visitors since last August. And that's when I started keeping record of that. I hope that they see that a simple life is possible in this day and age. A person can live close to nature and be conscientious without bringing the city to the country. You know, every effort has been with that in mind. I didn't want to bring the city to the country.
There's nothing simple about Terry Cox's approach to housing. He calls his house a living experiment. His goal, to make the house self-sufficient. In the 1960s, people started experimenting with solar power and constructing homes to not just work with nature, but to harness it with solar panels. Terry's approach looks at the past and draws from the future, space exploration. He calls his house BioStar. It's based on the concept of cells, closed ecology life support systems. He's creating a self-sufficient living quarter on Earth, similar to what we might use in space.
Just something that NASA works on for the moon and Mars, and we also find it has very good applications for here on Earth. Cells is based on the idea of closed systems, like the Earth itself is a closed ecological life support system for the people on the Earth, while a cell system is a building which does in miniature what the Earth does in its greater body. What we're attempting to do is recycle all our water and wastes within the building. BioStar does not have an external water connection, and none of the wastes or water within the structure actually touches the ground. It's just completely recycled in it. Okay, all the water and waste go into the blue barrel, and then it comes down through a tube, and an air bubbler bubbles the wastes in there and breaks them down, and then it goes over into a large clear tube that's 20 feet long. That clear tube has a bacterial bed in it and an algae bed, and that breaks down the wastes. And then when it's done with that, it goes through 100 feet of hydroponic tubing, which has plants in it. The waste is filtered through the root zone, but it goes into a series of constructed wetland style beds. Right over here, you can see a more finished bed with the plants growing up in it, and as the wastes go through the plant beds, the wastes are broken down by the plant roots and sterilized. Now, many types of plants produce antibiotics in the root zone, which will actually sterilize the water. When it's done through that, it goes into a large tank, is sterilized, and once it's sterilized, it is pumped and filtered, it's pumped back up through the system, and so we just have closed the water loop. This is kind of cutting edge, state-of-the-art. Let's try this. Does this work? In a larger scale, what this is a miniaturized constructed wetlands. In a larger scale, constructed wetlands are used to treat water for cities, small towns, but very few people have compressed it so small that it fits inside your house.
But the bathroom looks quite normal.
The toilet. How do I do this? In this waste treatment system, the toilet is connected directly to the blue barrel we saw earlier, and when the waste go down in there, it just goes into the recycling system. But any gases that come up from that system just come up through this little simple plant bed, and we found out that the soil under plants is very good for taking waste gases, and the microbes in the soil will eat the waste gases.
Terry says once the system is perfected, it shouldn't cost more than a normal septic system, but there are no waste or water bills. Terry also cuts down on heating bills with solar power.
The sunlight coming in through the front windows or the south side windows heat up the house. I would say probably about 75% of the heat in this structure just comes from the sunlight alone. The cooling is just the way that we built the structure, the way the drafts move through it, the way that the air moves through the structure. Most refrigerators have the compressor sitting on the bottom. It sucks the heat out of the interior of the refrigerator down to the bottom of the refrigerator, which then the heat goes right back up around the refrigerator, heating it back up. Also, you have a problem in most refrigeration in that it's not insulated enough. So what we've done here is build a super insulated box. You can see how thick this is. This is just, whole door is just made out of blue board put together. And this whole structure is very, very thick. And what we're going to be doing is adding the compressor up here right now. This is unfinished part, but the compressor will be above rather than below. And we should be able to use a very small compressor to heat, cool this whole space here. We also have it connected to the outside, so we can open this up to the outside during the winter. And all last winter, we didn't need to use any refrigeration at all.
Despite the experimental approaches to water and energy, the house is equipped with modern amenities.
Yeah, there's a microwave oven, there's a computer, there's a stereo. When you're working with a solar electric system, it's not as much power as you get off from the grid, so you must be very efficient in your use.
And Terry says that people can do a little or a lot with their own homes.
If an average, say, middle-class homeowner wanted to have a solar electric system on their house, that could be installed fairly easy, and maybe it'd take them, payback period is about 10 years. So you'd have about 10 years of not paying electrical bills to pay back for the original equipment cost.
Although Terry plans to spend many years fine-tuning this house, he doesn't plan to retire here.
We are building such large rooms for our daughters to live in, and that's because they get to inherit the house when we get old. Rather than them having to leave, we're going to leave.
Then he and Nora plan to build a solar RV and travel to campgrounds, selling solar panels. On Nature Homes, we'll talk to 6 local Hoosiers who built their homes with help from an unlikely contractor, nature. These homes use nature as a design tool for health, ecological, and cost reasons. From rustic cabins to high-tech solar power, these Hoosiers are taking a different approach to housing.